All right, so 80 Storm over on YouTube just asked the question, if AAA companies offer you games to review, would you take up the offer or wait for the game to come out and do your streams? I'm paraphrasing slightly. And I've addressed this in other YouTube videos, or in other streams, excuse me. So I thought this would be a great time for me to do a YouTube video about this discussion. So, by the way, for those of you who are watching this after the fact, this is why you should tune in live every single morning on YouTube and Twitch. We start at 6 a.m. Central, multi-streaming, because then you get to ask questions like this and get them answered. So, we've talked about this a couple times in streams recently. People were asking me why I wasn't doing reviews of certain games, like Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 and everything else. So, I am primarily a streamer. I do content creation, and I definitely do game reviews. But my game reviews happen in three stages. I generally do an early thoughts video, which is after I've played the game for 3 to 5 hours. Then I do my initial review, which is usually around 25 hours of the game. And then I do a final review after I finish the game, and I live stream everything. So I don't do offline plays of anything. I used to at the very beginning of my channel, but because I've transitioned mostly into streaming and full-time streaming now, we're coming up on my 3rd-year anniversary is February 16th. So I'll be going into my 4th year of full-time doing this in 2025. I do everything live. So if a company offers me a review copy, what do I have to do to be able to? So let's use Kingdom Come Deliverance as a great example, because that's a game that we are going to be playing in February, and they sent out review codes a month ago, right? And I think the embargo was 2 weeks ago or something. It's been a few weeks, or maybe 3 weeks ago. Anyway, if I wanted to do a review of Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 with everybody else who got review copies, I would need to play that game offline in order to create the review or the first impressions video, right? Like we would do a first impressions, like everybody else you saw coming out with videos like, I played it for 60 hours, I played it for 20 hours, I played it for this, Um, the the reality of doing that means I have to spend a lot of time playing that game offline. And if I'm offline, I'm not live. And if I'm not live, I'm not generating revenue. And I need revenue to pay my bills. So for me, I need to be doing everything that I do needs to be live streamed, because that's part of how I make money. Because of ad revenue, super chats on YouTube, cheers and bits over on Twitch, memberships on YouTube, subscriptions on Twitch. Like that's how I generate my revenue, is from ad revenue and subscriptions and donations. So if I'm not doing any of that, I'm not making money and paying my bills. So that's one of the reasons I don't do a lot of offline playthroughs, and it doesn't really do me any good to get a review copy of a game a month ahead of time, because that's not how I've structured my channel. Now, there is a benefit to doing that, because you can be one of the first people to publish like an early impressions or a first impressions video and all this other stuff. There is a benefit to that. However, because I'm streaming, um, like if I would, Mortissimal Gaming is a good example of this, because he does. I think he's starting to do more streaming, but traditionally he plays everything offline and then just publishes guides and like his reviews and his guides and everything else, and they're very in depth. Mortissimal Gaming is a great channel to watch, but he doesn't do a lot of live streaming. So he's one of those individuals who is perfectly set up to do those review type things where you get an early access copy and then you review the game, because that's how he's structured his channel. I have structured mine in a different way. Now it's interesting because I have had offers, and I sometimes take offers up, but I am very upfront with the companies when they make me those offers that I won't be able to invest the same amount of time that someone else might invest, because my day job is streaming. That's how I pay the bills. So I need to be live playing current launches, as opposed to dedicating a lot of time to playing something offline. So it is very rare for me to take offers up. I will say that I have an embargo dropping on January 30th at 9 a.m. Central, I believe is the time, and I will be publishing a video. It's an exception to the rule that I'm talking about right now. There is a AAA game that I have been involved with for the past few months. Um, and I will have a video coming out talking about that on January 30th. But it's also something where I'm not just going to be publishing one video. There's a whole bunch of content that I'm going to be able to publish before launch and then into launch and post launch. So when I received the offer, I looked at that and went, okay, strategically speaking, that makes a lot of sense for me to do this. But I was very open with them and said, look, I can't invest the time that a lot of these other people do because I need to be live all the time. So as long as you guys are okay with my participation during the, you know, closed off, can't talk about it stuff time, as long as you're okay with that, then I'm happy to participate and etc. But yeah, for the most part, um, it's great to receive those types of offers, and there is benefit to it. But the benefit for me is minuscule compared to what I get from live streaming a game. Now, one of the good things about being able to get an early review copy like that is, generally speaking, um, you can often play those games with early access. So you might get, there might be 3 days of early access or 4 days of early access. But as a gamer, I can go buy the early access as a general rule for most games. Star Wars Outlaws, Stalker 2, Indiana Jones: The Great Circle, Starfield. Many games allow me to pay an extra, 30, $40 or whatever and get a head start access. And I don't have a problem doing that because it's a tax deduction for me. So, the game might be $60, $70 for the base game. I pay 100, 120, and I can play the game for 3 days early. The 3 days that I get to stream that game for live before it goes to the general public, I always make my money back on that because I'm able to be live for the 3 days head start. But because I've structured my channel to be about live streaming primarily, that's the pivot I made. It doesn't make sense for me to take advantage of opportunities where you have to put a lot of time into offline game because I don't benefit from offline gameplay. And some people will say, yeah, but if you did an offline early access playthrough, like if you got a review copy and you did 60 hours of gameplay and then you put out a first impressions, or I got to play it and that video got 150,000 views, which is what most people are shooting for because they got to be first. You're going to make $500 on that video, and that contributes. And I'm like, you're not wrong, but then I have to play the game twice, and I don't have the time for that. Like, I don't have time to play the game. Like, I have to do a full clear to get a proper review in my head, and then I have to play it live when the game goes live. That makes zero sense to me to actually do. I'm wasting time at that point, if that makes sense. Ghostwalker says, this is my favorite part of your streams, chat interactions and conversation. I try. Like, some days I do it more than others. It just depends on the audience and if there's good questions. So 80 Storm asked a really good question, and this has actually been something that's cropped up on the streams a few times over the last few weeks. So it was like, this is the perfect time to like point it out and actually talk about it, clip it out for YouTube. So yeah, I do take advantage of those things occasionally, but it's not very often. A couple times a year, maybe. Um, as I get bigger as a content creator, because I've been an influencer before in the travel space, so I've already done this before. So as I get bigger, I will start to receive invitations to go to events. Like, KCD2 did an event about a month ago where they flew content creators out to do hands-on playthrough, and you get to record footage and stuff. I know Dune Awakening just did it for a bunch of people last week. Big AAA companies will invite content creators and influencers and streamers out to events from time to time. And those are fun to participate in, and generally speaking, you should want to do that because you're going to get to rub shoulders with people, and it builds business opportunities for later on. There is a benefit to doing that. But the other thing of that is, like, if I get flown to an event, let's just put this into perspective for a minute. You're offering to fly me to an event, and it doesn't matter where it's at. It could be in New York, it could be in London, it could be in Dubai. It doesn't matter where it's at. That means that I have to spend at least 2 days traveling, 1 day there and 1 day back. I lose 2 days of traveling, and at least 1, if not 2 days on site for whatever the event is. So I lose 4 days of not being live on my channel. And because the bulk of my revenue comes from streaming and etc., I have to weigh the pros and cons of that. Am I going to make enough money off of this event that they're bringing me, because they're not paying me to do that event. They are paying for my flights and my airfare and my, paying for my flights and my food and my accommodations. But am I going to make enough money off of whatever footage I'm going to be allowed to create out of that event? Am I going to make enough money off of that footage to justify not being live for the 4 days that I'm going to be out of my office to go to that event? Because I can't cover that event. I'm not allowed to. I'm under NDA. So everything's hush hush. I can maybe take some screenshots while I'm there, and we could share those on social media, but we can't share any footage. We can't live stream anything. So those types of events can be great for like networking and building up connections, but what stage of your growth are you at? Are you at a stage of your growth where you could afford to take 4 days off and lose that income? Because 4 days worth of income is a lot of money for some people. If you didn't go to your job for 4 days and you're working a job where you're living paycheck to paycheck, like, can you afford to take those 4 days off from your day job? Like, that's how I have to look at it too, is like, can I justify? Can I make more money being live for 4 days, or are the network connections going to be worth it for me in the long term for the brand building? So those are all things that you have to measure. And if you look back to my travel influencing days, Chris and I used to do about 4 events a year. We would do 4 to 5 public speaking events a year. And that was, those were justified because you get flown out there, wined and dined, networking. And when you're a speaker at an event, if there's 800 to 1,200 people in attendance, your brand building, your networking, etc. Plus, you're getting consultations, and it was a different industry, so a little different the way I used to do that, because I was a public speaker at those events. And then Chris and I would get press tours out of that, but we would also get contracts to go do these like trips. And so we would get a company that would say, hey, we want to fly you in, bring you to this destination, put you up for 4 days and have you create content. And we go, okay, so you're paying our airfare, our hotels, our transportation, all of our food. And then you're also going to pay us, $500 a day flat fee for content creation. So then it becomes a thing of like, okay, I'm going to make $2,500 for the 5 days I'm here, which justifies not being home in the office working. So that's how my mind operates. It's a very economical, it's mathematics to me. It's just, are the benefits of going to an event where I can't be live enough to offset the cost of me not being home in the office, being live, streaming to my community and growing my brand and all this other stuff? There are always pros and cons to any of this. The beauty of this not being my first rodeo is that I'm not starving for attention like a lot of other content creators are, and I'm not starving as an artist, and I make a healthy income. So I'm very comfortable where I'm at. I'm also older, and I've done this before, so it's like I don't. A lot of content creators are going to like, oh my God, someone's offering me a free game. Oh my God, someone's offering me a review code. Oh my God, someone's offering to fly me somewhere. Oh my God, and they're going to be drooling and slavering over that. And there's nothing wrong with being thankful for those opportunities and taking advantage of those opportunities, but they aren't always the most beneficial thing for your brand. So hopefully that answers your question, 80 Storm, in a rambling, longer sort of way. So review codes can be great. It depends on what your channel is and how your channel is set up. What are you going to get out of it? All that kind of stuff has to be factored in. It's not just about, oh, cool, I got a review code. Because I get offered, right now, the size of my channel thing, like I said, it's probably 50 to 100 games a month is what I get offered, and I almost never take any of them. Most of them are little indie BS projects on like Steam or something, and it's like, I'm not gonna know. It's your little early access title that 2 people built. I'm not gonna cover that. But AAA stuff when it comes along. But the other thing too is like AAAs have budgets, and so it's like I would much rather do a sponsored stream, and Co Carnage does this. So shout out to Co Carnage. He's big enough and he's been doing it long enough. Especially if you look recently, what he's been doing is he just did this with Kingdom Come Deliverance and Exodus, where he was paid to do a sponsored live stream like 2 weeks earlier or whatever. So like he just did one with Kingdom Come Deliverance a couple days ago. He did a sponsored 3-hour stream with Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, like 2 weeks before the game goes live. They allowed him to play the first 3 hours of the game, but it was a sponsored stream, so he's being paid by the company to promote the game early. So in that case, it's like, and he gets to count that towards his playthrough, and he was with the developers. Those are the kind of opportunities that I look forward to participating in. All you have to, I've done it before. Like I said, this is research for those of you who don't know who I am or haven't looked at my background before. You can go look up what I used to do with my wife on Marginal Boundaries with our travel industry stuff. That's what we used to do in the travel space. We would go to destinations, they would fly us in, we would do press events on like television with the national TV, Ireland, Spain, wherever we were, and then we would go work for hotels and food chains and the tourism boards of these locations, and do photography and videography and blog posts and all sorts of fun stuff for them. So I've done this before, and so with this brand, we're just now coming up on our 3rd-year anniversary. So I can say that 2024 was my, and again, the embargo drops of the 30th, so stay tuned for this because I will have information coming out at the end of the month about this thing I was talking about. 2024 was the first AAA project I've worked on with this YouTube channel and Twitch channel. So, in my 3rd year of doing this full time, I was able to work with a AAA company for the first time. So I anticipate that as we grow in 2025 into our 4th year and 5th year and beyond, those sorts of opportunities will come along more and more frequently. But I'm way more interested in doing what Co Carnage is doing, where you're doing, live streams with the devs 2 weeks early. I'm way more interested in doing that kind of stuff than I am in getting a review code and doing an offline playthrough, because again, that just doesn't make a lot of sense for me. So that's the rambling answer to that. And also, this is the perfect point to say, like, subscribe, hit the bell icon so you never miss an update, everybody. And conversations like this, which happen during the live streams, where you can show up and ask questions and get them answered. So make sure you follow along in both places. Typically start at 6 a.m. Central Time every single day on YouTube and Twitch.